Operation Domination is underway. The ultimate game plan to dominate your NFL experience. With your hosts, Dan Mader.
But what's more impressive to me about the
Chase Thornton.
Yeah, I mean, I got it.
Chris Dowhouse.
Get him, Chase. Get him, Chase.
And Adam
No,
LaRue.
not necessarily, but it's again the same.
Don't hope to win. Be great and dominate.
All right. Operation Domination is back on your screens, on our YouTube channel at FF Advice Network. If you haven't subscribed, make sure you do so and hit the little bell notification. We got new content every single day from this show, from everybody in the network, and it's been going absolutely great so far this summer. We're not even into the season yet. We're getting you prepared for it. Make sure you also check out Operation Domination, your favorite podcast app, wherever you listen, on the go. Great stuff for you guys to take with you on your jogs, your drive home, whatever the case may be. I'm your host, Dan Mader. We are continuing on our team profile series as we have been for the last few weeks now, and we're getting into the middle of it because we'll be talking about the NFC North. We had Bob Long on last week talking about the AFC North, and now we're going to have a great guest for the NFC North. We'll get him introduced in just a second. No Adam today, but we do have Chase and Chris in the building. How are we doing, fellas?
Doing pretty good, Dan.
Feeling good. I got the generational ones jersey. Yeah.
Oh, man. Yeah. For those who missed the show a couple of weeks ago,
I had to order. I ordered it literally right away. Yeah.
We had Joe Pisapia on, and Chase had the slip of calling Jermichael Finley, as a Packers fan, a generational talent. We'll have to get into that a little bit later on. Chris, how are we doing?
Doing pretty good, Dan. I was saying, this is my favorite part of the season. A lot of times, this is, people, we don't have anything really going on. We think, but this is what you get the little nuggets, the little insiders tips. It's where you kind of find those guys that you're looking for, before everybody else kind of catches on. So this is kind of my favorite part of the season.
Well, yeah, because there's not a lot of news going on. So this is our time we can really dive in, kind of get into the nitty gritty with all of these teams and players and how everything shapes up. By the way, just, we're not going to talk about it too much today, but Ramondre Stevenson signed a big contract. That looks great for my ranking because I was higher on ADP going into it. So this makes it look even better for me. So Ramondre Stevenson, not too worried about Antonio Gibson after that contract he just got today. But we want to introduce our guest of the evening. And now, the moment you've all been waiting for. He was the second-ranked Fantasy Pros accuracy ranker in 2021, the featured fantasy and betting analyst on the Vipers Network, BetSperts and Fantasy Points, the one, the only, Mr. Matt Donnelly!
That's tough to top right there. I mean, that came with the energy right there. That, I love it every way, shape, and form. Listen, Ramondre Stevenson just made me look like a fool the other day. I just talked about him being kind of in that RB18 type range. That guaranteed money, that guaranteed damn money. That is where it's at right now. I thought maybe Antonio Gibson would be a thing there in the pass catching situation. I mean, he's probably literally the most talented pass catcher on that Patriots roster. Well, let's pump the brakes there. Not so fast, as Lee Corso would say. Ramondre Stevenson is back, baby.
Yeah, if you didn't think Scott Van Pelt was going to use him as the featured back before, you better believe it right now. But we are talking about the NFC North today, and we got quite a few showdowns that we're going to get into. So let's just kick it right off the bat with the top. Jordan Love. I love the hat, man. Way to go. Jordan Love, man. So this is somebody that I think people are still on two sides of the fence on. Do they want to see a little bit more? Can he duplicate what he did in the second half of last season? Or was the first half maybe closer to what we're going to see? I don't know. We're going to talk about it here. We got Matt who's going to talk about him. He's got him at QB8. He's going to be taking on Chris in this showdown. I am going to judge it. So the guest always comes first. Matt, you have him up at QB8. Why are you so high here on Jordan Love?
Well, I didn't know there was really a showdown debate breaking down here, so I have to try and change my strategy. I didn't leave a whole lot of meat and potatoes here with this, but I'll tell you what, here's the new strategy right now. It is tried and true, and I'm going to become the biggest idiot you've ever had on this show. Why, you might ask? Why would someone bring themselves down to being an idiot? Well, I'll tell you why. Have you ever beaten an idiot in an argument? No, you cannot beat an idiot in an argument. They will bring you down to their level, and then they will beat you with experience. Here I am, the idiot with the experience. Let's go, Jordan Love. Listen, first off, QB6 last year, so QB8 is actually below where he could possibly be. So let's put some respect on Jordan Love's name. Christian Watson, he's potentially going to be healthy. If Watson's in this lineup, and I love Christian Watson, I love a healthy Christian Watson. Let's kind of make sure we separate healthy Christian Watson and Christian Watson that we kind of knew from last season there. Everyone in this offense is a year older. This is one of the youngest core offenses in the entire National Football League. Josh Jacobs and Jordan Love, they're the elder spokespeople of this offense. I think they're like 28 and 27 or 27 and 26. Everyone else is under 25. This offense did what it did with a bunch of young Bucks last year. These Bucks are now an extra year of seasoning. You talk about the back stretch of that season, weeks 10 through 17. 10 through 17. That's a big enough sample size for me to get excited about here. Average 21 fantasy points per game. That was the second most. We talked about him being QB6. I'm saying he's QB8. He was QB2 over that stretch of weeks 10 through 17. All he did in that period, 18 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, tutties, no picks. That's fantasy production right there. 2,100 yards. QB8 may be too low for him. I could see him being a possible QB5 type guy here right now going into next season. If Christian Watson can stay healthy, if Romeo Doubs can continue his progression, if Bo Melton can step up. I mean, there's no one guy that you could focus on in this Green Bay Packers offense to defend. We've seen what he does. Look at some of these other quarterbacks out there. Justin Herbert, for example, he was actually probably more productive after his big weapons went, where he didn't have to force feed a Keenan Allen, force feed a Mike Williams. Jordan Love, he doesn't have to force feed anyone in this Green Bay Packers offense. There's not an alpha. There's a bunch of guys out there that just go out there and do their job when they are healthy. I think the addition of Josh Jacobs in the run game kind of solidifies the run game a little bit better than maybe Aaron Jones, even though Aaron Jones had a little bit more a little bit better in the passing game. But look, this Packers offense is still as good as it's going to get in this league. We saw what they were able to do during the back half of the season. This is a team and an offense you need to make sure you're paying a lot of attention to when it comes to fantasy.
I like it a lot.
All right, some strong arguments there from Matt. Chris, you have him at 16. You don't even have him in the top 12. So what is it about Jordan Love that you think he's not going to be able to replicate what he did in the second half of last year?
Yeah, Dan, I'm going to be more the skeptic on this side. And look, my 10 through 12 or 16 through 12, it's kind of fluctuating, I think, as things progress. But this is where I'm looking at for Jordan Love. A guy who was a tale of two halves, as we talked about at the beginning, kicking this off. He was fantastic. You were talking about weeks 10 through 17, absolutely. But let's not ignore what he was in the previous part of that season, and that was not good. A guy who we were like, what in the world's going on in Green Bay? An offense that was not humming. And for me, Dan, I looked for touchdown regression as a result. Look, he was super hot, but he also had some warts that we kind of overlooked throughout the season. A guy who has 9 fumbles last year, a guy who had 3 games where he threw multiple interceptions, including a 3 interception performance. That's going to cost you fantasy football. And then the upside. He had 2 games where he was over 300 yards last year. He had 1 game where he had 0 games where he rushed over 40 yards last year. And as a result, we look at all those different things. What are we going to get out of Jordan Love? I think we got peak Jordan Love last year. I think when you talk about the weapons, yes, the weapons are nice. But it's also a kind way of saying they don't have a true number 1 weapon. And we all consistently hear about why guys are going to go to these number 1 receivers and why we hate receivers, Justin Jefferson getting $35, $40 million contracts because special receivers get special money. Green Bay doesn't necessarily have a special receiver. I understand the idea not featuring per one guy, but I think when times get tougher and when you have a second year of tape on a guy in Jordan Love and you start looking for some of the things that you take away and making him kind of adjust, I have a lot of questions going into the second year where I've seen a lot of guys regress. We've seen Daniel Jones, Danny Dimes is not Danny Dimes anymore because what happened in that second year. A lot of guys that first year, they get tape on you, and suddenly the second year is a little bit harder. Got to make a second or third read. I didn't see Jordan Love come off those reads. I think a lot of improvement. I'm not saying he's not going to make it. There's a lot of questions where there's a lot of guys who were hurt last year who I think are now healthy in situations where they have some weapons in place that I have a little bit more faith in.
Yeah, this is why Jordan Love's such a great discussion, because you do have two sides of a coin and you can make a very strong argument on either side. Now, I happen to fall a little bit in the middle. I do have him ranked at 10. I'm closer to Matt on this. I do think he should be valued as a top 12 quarterback. But here's what I will say to kind of Chris's point a little bit, is that he needed the play action game to do what he did. Now, look, maybe Josh Jacobs doesn't get the injury bug like Aaron Jones did. Maybe Marshawn Lloyd, who they drafted to kind of back him up, ensures that they don't have the drop off, and that is able to stay as a staple in the playbook. And that very well may be the case. But Chris, I also kind of like your point of there hasn't been a true number one receiver. Now, I do think, I will say this, and we'll talk about Christian Watts a little bit later. If his hamstring issue did get worked out, then he could actually become a legitimate wide receiver one. I do think that the potential for that is there. I also want to throw this caveat out there. For the season as a whole, Jordan Love had 19.4 points per game. In most years, that's somewhere between a QB 8 and a QB 12. Because remember, and I brought this up throughout the summer, 2023 was the worst scoring out of quarterbacks we've seen since 2017. So if the quarterbacks improve or regress to the mean just a bit, all of a sudden what he put up last year may not put him in the same tier type of quarterbacks. And it's kind of convoluted because I like a lot of other quarterbacks in his range. I think guys like Brock Purdy, Jared Goff, even Tua Tagovailoa can put up similar type passing numbers to a Jordan Love. So his legs does have to be a factor to distance himself from those guys if you're going to draft him. Right now, his ADP is at 10. Where I have him ranked. I'm going to give this to Matt. I'm closer to him. I do think he needs to be valued as a top 12 quarterback. So ultimately, I give this to Matt. But I do see both sides of the argument here. I think, Chris, were you about to jump in?
I was just going to say the touchdown passes is something that has to continue as well. That's where I'm looking at the caveat. Green Bay was incredibly efficient in touchdown production last year, and I think that's going to take some regression. That's where you're going to see if he doesn't throw 32 touchdown passes, those numbers that we got last year, you're not getting.
If he does the 32 touchdown passes, it's going to be a hell of a disappointing season with all of the hype going into the Green Bay Packers offense too. So we'll keep that in mind. Let's move into Jared Goff, though. Let's talk about him a little bit. So we don't have a showdown for Jared Goff. We're all pretty much in the same range. Chris, you have him at 12. Matt has him at 14. Matt, why do you think Jared Goff maybe finishes outside that top 12 range this season?
Look, he's one of those guys that can easily get himself in that top 12. You kind of mentioned that log jam of quarterbacks. I got Jordan Love ahead of Kyler Murray, Dak Prescott. Dak Prescott, we can see him jump ahead as well. These guys are all right there. Jaden Daniels, I love his rushing upside, but he's a rookie. Tua Tagovailoa, most passing yards in the league. Nope. But yet his fantasy production wasn't quite what you'd expect from a guy who led the league when it comes to passing. Brock Purdy, same situation, lots of weapons. You can make a case for him. I got Jared Goff just above Caleb Williams because we saw Caleb Williams regress from his Heisman year to his next season, his draft year. So we've seen that. We talk about tape being on these guys. I'm not even sure. You could probably make an argument that Jared Goff may outperform Anthony Richardson, who played, 3 games last season. So the quarterback position, if you look last season of every quarterback in that top 12, there's about 6 or 7 quarterbacks that you probably would not have had in your top 12 last season. You kind of alluded to the lowest scoring quarterback season we've seen in quite some time there. It's really open, especially on that back stretch here from that 7, 8, 9, all the way to 15. You can kind of lump everyone kind of in there. We know we lost Richardson to people like Jalen Hurts is a guy that a lot of people love, but a lot of his production came on those rushing touchdowns. Enter Saquon Barkley. So I wouldn't expect a lot of those tush pushes to go down in Philadelphia, so Hurts can slide down. Brock Purdy, who has the weapons. So many different things can happen here. I think Jared Goff is a great quarterback. I love his road and his home splits versus his road splits. That's the one thing that kind of has a little concern to me is what Jared Goff does on the road. He's more of a house cat than a mountain lion here at this point of his career. But you know what? Some of those road games, they're in a dome, so maybe that factors in too. So, I love Jared Goff, but I don't think he's going to be there. I think he's going to give you QB1 weeks. I think he's going to give you 3, 4, 5 QB1 weeks there, but most of the time he's going to fall in that 14 to 15 range, and that's okay. You can put him in your starting lineup. He could be your QB1, and you can ride with him all season and kind of go with the ups and downs. Start him at home, rest him on the road, and you're set.
Yeah, I do love that from that standpoint of the streaming factor of like, when to play Jared Goff, when to bench Jared Goff. Sometimes that in itself can have fantasy value when you actually know when not to play these guys. Chase, you kind of see this kind of similar, right? Because you have him at 13.
Oh, yeah. I mean, listen, QB7 last season, but, it took the second most pass attempts of his career. It was his highest career completion percentage. It was only his second 30 touchdown season. It was his second best fantasy season overall. His top 2 fantasy seasons in his career, he's topped out at QB7 both times, 2018, I think it was with the Rams, and last year. So we saw last season Jared Goff at the absolute peak of his fantasy value and fantasy career for us. Most of his career, he's been just exactly where I've got him ranked, where pretty much we all have him ranked, which is a high-end QB2, but with QB1 upside. Like Matt said, and like, if you ask our guest from last week, Bob, here about his consistency, his home and road splits suck. He's not even that great necessarily of a best ball quarterback because he only really had 2 spike weeks all year last year. He had one game of like 27 points, one game of like 31 or something like that. And the rest of the time, he was just kind of coasting along or low. So, I don't mind taking Goff if you're going to wait, but you're going to want to pair him up with somebody else who has a little more juice to him, a little higher ceiling, I would say. So, yeah, I mean, I'll take him as a QB2, a high-end QB2, but that's all I want to go on him. And we'll see where he shakes out after that.
Yeah, I mean, he hit the nail on the head with 2 points. With 2 points there, really. I mean, we've seen the best of Jared Goff the past 2 seasons, right? 29 and 30 passing touchdowns, about 4,500 yards, surrounded by top-tier weapons, surrounded by the best offensive line in football, surrounded by Ben Johnson for those past couple of years, and yet we still saw Jared Goff go around between QB 15, QB 16 on a points per game basis. He's not going to give you much with his legs. Now, he's very high floor, but not very high reward. He is the perfect quarterback to pair up with somebody you want to maybe take a shot on who maybe has a bigger ceiling. That's his role. And that's why I'm with Matt here and I got him at 14. Was somebody going to jump in there? Okay.
Yeah, no, I was going to say he's the perfect guy. He's the perfect guy if you go out for an Anthony Richardson or a quarterback that you're not 100% sold on. The upside there. You mentioned the upside. You're like, hey, this guy he can score a rushing touchdown every game. He is basically, if Cam Newton and Randall Cunningham had a baby, it would be Anthony Richardson, except we only saw him play 3 games last season due to injury. Enter Jared Goff. I mean, go get your Anthony Richardson, maybe in the 6th, maybe in the 7th round. Don't go over and really get it because there's some good value at quarterbacks a little bit later that can give you similar production.
This is the year to go back to taking quarterbacks late. I think there's no doubt about it. We got a showdown for the next. This time it's going to be me and Chris. And Matt, you're going to be the judge of this debate. It is about Caleb Williams. So Chris has got him in 7. He said the rookie is going to finish as a top 8 quarterback at 7. I have him back at ADP at QB 15. Chris, why do you think Caleb Williams is a must draft according to your rankings?
Yeah, so one of the things I was going to kind of kick off with is talking about the cheat codes in football. I'm not going to beat the drum too much on this. We know that when you use your legs, it's something that's valuable. And I think Caleb Williams' legs is being forgotten about. The guy rushed for 21 touchdowns the last 2 years. And then, his freshman year was very good rushing the ball in Oklahoma. And I highlight that because people kind of highlight, last year what he did, especially rushing the ball, yards after contact, and what he's able to kind of break tackles with and his yards per carry, how they're all down from his freshman and sophomore year. Look, once there was Heisman was out the window, to me, Caleb Williams didn't care. And let's also add the talent around him was significantly different. Jordan Addison went in the 1st round. Jordan Addison was a pretty good rookie last year. Brendan Rice went in the 7th round. I don't think anybody else from USC, Taj Washington also went in the 6th or 7th round as well. So 2 receivers went in the 7th round for USC last year. So that's where the talent drop is for around here, what you saw for Caleb Williams. Now, put him in the situation he's at right now. You got 3 stars around him, Rome Odunze, DJ Moore, and Keenan Allen. You put him in a situation where he's the quarterback from day one, so there's no situation guy looking over his shoulder. And bring in a offensive coordinator in Seattle who had a high passing percentage where he was 10th in average EPA last year. And then you'll look at also a guy who had a good pace. They're 8th in plays per second. So stats per second, I should say. So you have a team that's going to put all those things for a rookie quarterback who's going to run around a little bit. He's going to have make some plays. And the last time I saw that happen, it was Deshaun Watson's rookie year. Deshaun Watson only played 7 games that rookie year, but 19 touchdowns in that little stretch. It was at average 24.8 points for fantasy. Next year wound up being a top 5 quarterback.
Nope.
Well, and then he disappeared. So I didn't like his argument, so I just kicked him out of the stream.
Shot down.
Chris, you're back.
I just think you put all those things in place. You look at the weapons, you look at the pace, you look at the things that he has going for him. I think Caleb Williams has just as good upside, and we all get excited about Anthony Richardson's mobility. If guys' mobility, like I said, Caleb Williams running for 21 touchdowns in 2 years, so the guy can get done in red zone as well. So that's going to be a big caveat for me. I just think the upside's there, and I think the ability for the Chicago offense also is there.
Look, I'm not going to disagree with you on Caleb Williams can use his legs, but this isn't Jaden Daniels here that we're talking about. A lot of times when he uses his legs, it's to set up the scan the field down the field. It's not necessarily to look to take off and run. He has that ability, but I have him projected at about 300 rushing yards this season. I think that's a pretty safe projection considering the amount of times he actually runs the football in scramble drill. And I think that's enough to give him a floor, which is interesting, but I don't think that's enough to put him inside the top 12 as a dual threat quarterback. And the touchdown variance with a quarterback like that is going to be something I'm not going to necessarily sit here and say I can accurately predict. The other thing I do agree with you on is that he does have a ton of weapons, but CJ Stroud had pretty good weapons. CJ Stroud had one of the best rookie years we've ever seen a quarterback have, and he still only managed to get about 23 passing touchdowns, about 4,100 yards off of roughly 33 pass attempts a game. I think the 33 pass attempts a game is crucial for Caleb Williams, and I think that's about the right range he's going to get in a Shane Waldron offense. That's also the other key for me. Shane Waldron, in my mind, is not Bobby Slowick as far as a play caller is concerned. So when I look at all of this, and I know CJ Stroud finished in the top 5, but again, I go back to his point per game basis in normal years would have had him more about QB 9, QB 10. I do think Caleb Williams has some upside here, but to draft him that high or draft him that far ahead of ADP when there's so many other guys like QB7. I have Kyler Murray there. I have Dak Prescott in that territory. Like Joe Burrow, I have at 9. These are all guys I just rather take a shot on and then draft Caleb Williams maybe late as somebody who can hit that ceiling, but not somebody I'm projecting at that ceiling, which is why I'm a QB 15.
Are you not projecting that for Kyler Murray?
We've already seen Kyler Murray. We know what Kyler Murray does when he runs. We know exactly what he can be, a top 3 quarterback when he's actually running and healthy. So I don't think that's much of a projection for a guy like Kyler Murray. It is a projection, I think, for Caleb Williams. But Matt, you go ahead and decide on the debate here.
Yeah, the one thing the Chicago Bears have done very well, probably as good or not better than any other team, is run the ball the last few seasons. Last season, 141.1 yards per game, second most in the league there with 2,399 yards. They don't have these stud running backs. Yes, Justin Fields had a lot of those rushing yards. I don't think Caleb Williams is going to be that Justin Fields when it comes to a runner, but I also think that Caleb Williams is a better passer than Justin Fields happened to be. The problem is we have that log jam again at the quarterback position. And while Williams has that upside, I look at this. For me, I've got Jordan Love at QB8. I cannot put Caleb Williams ahead of Jordan Love. It's not going to happen because we talk about he's still a rookie coming into this league. There's still that curve. There's going to be the ups. There's going to be the downs. It's rare for a quarterback to come in and absolutely crush it. It has happened. We've seen it from time to time, but in that rookie season, I think we're maybe a year early on Caleb Williams, if not maybe 2 years early when it comes to that. The weapons are there, but again, Keenan Allen, we're talking about a wide receiver who's dealt with some injuries in the past as well. So how long is Keenan Allen going to be in there? That's another question I have. There's going to be a lot of people that he's got to try and figure a way to keep happy. He didn't have to worry about keeping anyone happy at USC, but now he's got Odunze to keep happy, DJ Moore to keep happy, Cole Kmet to keep happy, Keenan Allen to keep happy. It's a lot for a young quarterback to try and manage. So for me, I've got him just outside my top 12, so I'm probably going to go with Dan here on this a little bit. But there's no doubt that Caleb Williams has the potential to be that quarterback to climb up those rankings. So I won't discredit Caleb Williams. I just don't see it in his rookie season. He doesn't have that Cam Newton type prowess out there as a rookie quarterback. When I think of a rookie quarterback who's going to be a top 12 quarterback, I think of Cam Newton. I think of those goal line touches becoming basically an extension of the running game. I don't see that with Caleb Williams. So I'm kind of going to pump the brakes there a little bit on the rookie because he's got a little bit of learning to do here. And the defenses are going to disguise things for him that he hasn't seen in college, especially in the Pac-12.
I knew I liked you, Matt. Thanks for the W on that one. All right, so let's go. A real quick question. Matt, I'm just going to get your opinion on this. Sam Darnold, J.J. McCarthy, who's a starter week 1? Go.
It's Sam Darnold right now. J.J. McCarthy has some things to learn. I mean, it's going to come. J.J. McCarthy's talented. We know that. And you can't just tell me to give me a one-word answer and say go, because that's not going to happen. I'm going to ramble on no matter what. But J.J. McCarthy, we know he's got the talent. There's a reason he was drafted where he was drafted. Again, there is that learning curve for a quarterback, especially one that doesn't have that bootleg ability, that rushing kind of ability to kind of make up for not seeing what's already there. The windows are tighter than he had at Michigan. He was always on the more talented team out there, unlike Caleb Williams, who didn't really have the more talented team. Michigan was always the most talented team. So for me, it's Sam Darnold, but it's going to be a very short leash for Darnold. He's going to get maybe, if he can't get this Vikings team going, he could be replaced by week 3, week 4.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to take very long. We've seen Sam Darnold enough with opportunities where it's gone to hell in a handbasket very, very, very quickly.